Once again, everybody, I'm Chris Berman, and to use another song from Jerry Lee Lewis, there's a whole lot of shaking going on because before the draft has even begun, we've got some big trades in the works. It seems as if the San Diego Chargers have been talking to just about everybody that moves. One of the teams that's moving, the Chicago Bears, and it's a trade that might involve Jim McMahon, veteran quarterback of the Bears, going to the Chargers for a #1 pick. It hasn't happened yet, but it may in just a couple moments out at Lake Forest, Illinois at Bears headquarters, which is where our good friend Pete Axthelm is. Good morning, Ax.
Good morning, Chris. With my incredible instinct for news and sheer luck, I do happen to be sitting on top of the big story of the draft. It looks like McMahon's going to San Diego for 2 top draft choices, which right now Mike Ditka, Bill Tobin, the personnel director, and owner Mike McCaskey are in a meeting. They have not finalized it yet. Let's go to Andrea Kramer. She's with McMahon's agent, Steve Zucker.
Thanks, Pete. We are here at the home of Steve Zucker in suburban Chicago. It is to be a day to celebrate draft picks to come, but one of Steve's greatest prizes has been Jim McMahon, and it looks as though, Steve, he may be heading out of Chicago. What do you hear? Can we substantiate any sort of rumors?
No, the rumors have been going on for some time. They seem to be really heating up today, though, and there's always a possibility. If Jim were to go anywhere, San Diego's the place he'd like to go.
What has transpired up to now? Have you talked to anybody? Has Jim talked to anybody?
No, we have not, and it's all, we've been hearing the rumors all morning long, and we're just going to respond to them as things break. But I guess that's up to the Bears in San Diego as to what they work out.
Well, Chris, Jim McMahon is upstairs. He said that he has no comment to make when and until some sort of deal is culminated. Right now, there's no news. Let's go to the Bears camp with Pete Axthelm and see if there's any news there.
Very little, except the fact that McMahon has, on local television, made some statements which are basically sayonara. He thinks he's out of Chicago. He thinks it's a done deal. You think of Jim McMahon, the headbands, the flair, the style, and they can just brush him aside. It seems as though they raised the price of fame.
Well, Pete Axthelm out at Bears headquarters. Jim McMahon, at this moment, is still a Bear.
Yeah, yes, he is. It appears the deal didn't go through. I think San Diego preferred the deal where they get Stan Humphries, the backup quarterback of the Redskins.
When you insult a ball player, especially a guy who has served you as much as Jim McMahon has served Chicago, he is not going to be able to forget about it, and you may be opening up a can of worms not only right now at draft time, but when you get to camp, you may have a very hard time dealing with Jim McMahon.
So Chicago, as we are back live in New York City, about to make the first. Maybe they'll make them bang, bang. They go 11-12. Number 11 selection that the Bears own by virtue of the Willie Gault trade. Then, of course, the number 12 overall selection in round 1, part of their compensation for the departure of free agent linebacker Wilbur Marshall last year to the Washington Redskins. This is a team that through the 80s has had 10 #1 picks. 5 of them have played in the Pro Bowl. The commissioner.
All right, Chicago Bears select Donnell, Woolford, defensive back, Clemson. Then the Bears, on their own first-round selection, Trace Armstrong, defensive end, Florida.
Donnell, Woolford, Trace Armstrong, as the Bears make a double dose of some defensive help. And let's take a look at Donnell Woolford, outstanding player for Clemson, who started for 4 years, also returns punts, always through the tough receiver. First Clemson defensive back to be a first-team All-American ever. This is a guy who's got corner skills and 4.5 speed.
I'll tell you what, Bob, these are 2 great picks for the Chicago Bears, one of the best organizations at evaluating talent in the NFL. See Woolford, how he closes on the football, great reactions, very tough individual, causes interceptions like he did here. Just a fine football player. He might lack the recovery speed of Deion Sanders, but he was a 4-year starter. You see him here as a punt return ability. He can put 6 points on the board for you in this capacity. Great choice here. I really thought Phoenix would have to look at Donnell Woolford because of their needs at left corner. I think it's a great pick. Trace Armstrong, I thought, was one of the most underrated players in this draft. I think he will be more productive early in his career than Bert Grossman, and that's saying an awful lot because I'm high on Grossman as well.
He transferred, didn't he?
Transferred from Arizona State. Very highly competitive individual. Probably the toughest player in this draft, along with Darrell Johnston from Syracuse.
He didn't play, though, in the pro season. He had some knee problems, went to the combine, and at that point really was only able to show his strength doing some reps. So it took a while to get a fix on him in this postseason.
Well, he had 2 minor knee injuries, Bob. They were arthroscopic knee injuries with cartilage damage. He's fine now. He tested out well prior to the draft. Trace Armstrong is fine. He's in great shape, and he will be a great addition to a team, the Chicago Bears, that were desperate for defensive line help and desperate for a cornerback to work opposite Dusty Jackson.
The trade didn't go down, but the Bears, by at least our wisdom here, picked up two darn good players.
Thank you, Bob. The Bears, not surprisingly, they built their reputation on defense. They went for these two very good defensive players. A minority opinion on that is Al Davis, who traded Willie Gault for that number 11 selection, says there is no player in his draft that's going to go 11th that I would want better than Willie Gault. Let's go to Kevin Kiley in Anaheim for some other thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Pete. While I'm out here, I think I could hear a collective sigh when Trace Armstrong went in that last draft pick to the Bears. Armstrong is a guy, the defensive coordinator of the Rams, Fritz Shermer, went down to Florida to see. He's an up-the-field pass rusher, and that's one of the Rams' really desperate needs. They have free agents along that defensive front. Donnell Woolford, I think, fits very well, those two picks for the Bears, because they like to play pressure defense, and they need cornerbacks that can play man-to-man, and Woolford out of Clemson did a great job at man-to-man for Clemson. He'll play that with the Bears, and, of course, Armstrong getting upfield, they'll be able to get the kind of pressure that they would like.
We might have a trade. It looks complicated up there. We've had one trade already today between Denver and Cleveland. Let's get the particulars now.
The Bears are up now. However, they trade their first pick in the first round, this pick, to Miami for Miami's second and third choices in this draft. So the Bears now have Miami's second and third, and Miami has the current choice.
And Miami's on the clock with 8 minutes to go. That will give another pick, which would be, 21 selections in this draft for Chicago.
Joe, and you thought that the Bears might get rid of one of those first choices.
I think they had to. I think basically you're talking about the story of economics for the Chicago Bears. They're not going to pay 3 first-round draft choices, although they picked up a defensive lineman and a defensive back, not going to have to pay him as much money as you would one of the skilled positions on offense. It's a good move for the Bears. They pick up a couple more choices like they need them like new shirts. They've got 1,000 of them out in their closet, and they're just picking them up now.
The Bears have chosen John Roper, linebacker from Texas A&M. Roper, a guy that had some poor combine workout, so he fell down in the draft as far as some were concerned, but obviously not as far as Chicago was concerned. If you want to keep track of such things, the man leg presses 800 pounds. He's a very good special teams player, which meant he would fit in well at Chicago. 36 career quarterback sacks. I mean, a superior athlete for Jackie Sherrill down there, as you can see right there, slapping some players around. And here he is on the special teams, just all over the punter. 6'1", 230 pounds, hometown of Houston, Texas. And so he is now a member of the Chicago Bears. And John Roper now joins, the Bears have 3 selections here in the first 36. And they've gone all for defense. Donnell Woolford, cornerback, Clemson. Trace Armstrong, defensive end, Florida. And now with the linebacker, John Roper, they've got somebody at all 3 spots, Joe. And it's not that the Bears don't have good defense, but they were getting some thin spots, and especially losing some of their veterans in the replacement draft.
You bring up the most important factor, Chris, is they've lost some people. Al Harris has gone to Philadelphia. Otis Wilson out with, of course, the questionable knee. Wilbur Marshall went last year. So I think the 3 selections are excellent. Richard Dent coming off a broken leg. The Bears have done their research. They're filling spots. They're an excellent football team. We're not just talking about somebody trying to make themselves better. They're an excellent football team. They're trying to put themselves back into the Super Bowl.
We heard Mike Ditka, Tommy, talk about guys who are Chicago Bears-type players. You mentioned Trace Armstrong. Reminds him of a young Dan Hampton. Roper's got a mean streak in him. That ought to fit in there.
I was just going to say, Joe mentioned the Bears doing their homework, and their homework does not consist too much of that combine workout, how fast you run a 40, how much you weigh. They check your attitude, and Roper supposedly has the kind of attitude that's going to fit in with the Bear program.
Attitude dancing. That's what the Bears do. We're going to dance out to Lake Forest, Illinois, and join Pete Axtell, who's had a busy afternoon. Pete.
Chris, there's certainly great jubilation that Roper was still available this late in the draft. You know, interesting contrast. The Bears have a record of 21 picks in this draft. They have really stockpiled.
We began the day talking about the possibility of Jim McMahon leaving Chicago, going to San Diego. That didn't happen. So does Jim McMahon definitely stay with the Bears? Pete Axtell out at Bear headquarters at Lake Forest, Illinois, says, what, are they still trying to trade him away? It's been all day, hasn't it, Ax?
Well, Chris, with my incredible nose for news, I've managed to be on the biggest non-story of draft day. I have to piece together what happened here. They were hedging their bets with McMahon. He was their third option, and they decided not to use that option. In fact, another source unrelated to the Chargers made the comment to me around the league today, said, Mike Ditka told you earlier we wouldn't give up the whole orchard for one tree. He says, by the time they really unload Jim McMahon, they may be giving up just an apple. And now, back to the Big Apple.